What's up everyone, welcome to today's video, welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. One of our audience members pretty much levied a complaint at Gotham Knights and said the game was fundamentally bad. And I asked exactly why, and they mentioned to me that there are systems in the game that just make the game fundamentally bad. Now when they listed these systems, I realized that this is actually one of those situations of something kind of new in a genre that has not necessarily been established. So Gotham Knights is probably the most ballsy video game in the last few years in the sense that it took a concept that has not necessarily been tried and tested and went out there and just did it in a genre that hasn't necessarily received such a transformation in the way you approach the video game. What I mean is they went and did an RPG game in an open world setting with a replayable loop, something that has not been done in the superhero genre that I've seen in the more recent times. A game that actually pushed the envelope and did this in the more recent time was Tom Clancy's The Division 1 and especially The Division 2. Now I have these games fired up and I'm going to show you guys similarities in their game mechanics. So the complaint was the game is extremely grindy because you do these activities, you come out here and you get your XP, you get your gear, your blueprint, and the story is short. So when you think about it, a game like this that provides a replayable loop within the world map, having a short story, in my opinion, makes a lot of sense. If you actually had a long story and this loop, you would probably check out very soon, but they've made it where you can actually play the game in a short period of time. You have New Game Plus and you can go New Game Plus over and over and over again however many times you want. You can go New Game Plus 20 if you wanted to, because that's an option that's available for you. But if you wanted to stay in your game state after you've done New Game Plus, you can just continue to use the world as your replayable content. But the world resets and randomizes all the activities that they need you to do. This is not new. The Division 2 has this system in the best form actually. See, when the game came out, they did a representation of Washington, D.C., but these activities are like mission areas that are stationary. They don't really move for the most part. There are, however, activities that are mobile and constantly moving and changing across the world. Example, this is a moving activity and it tells you its destination and you can actually engage it, deal with the enemies, and it can affect things around the world. One crazy thing was players were playing all of these different activities around the map and they were grinding it and enjoying it, and they told the developers, hey, why don't you make it where we can increase the difficulty of the entire map? So across the board, we can go in and change the whole difficulty. So you can go from normal, hard, challenging, heroic, that's the highest difficulty of the map, and we get more XP rewards. And we want to even have the possibility of adding directives to the world. So enemies have and you both have some modifiers. So the world is now more interesting. It changes the gameplay loop. So example, maybe say Gotham Knights, if you had a system like this, all enemies that are in the open world will start dealing poison damage, or they can deal with whatever kind of special damage that they will surprise you with. That's what it was. And in the Division's case, you can actually reset the map and reset the control points. So the control points are these areas here that have these flags here. Enemies are literally just sitting there every time. You can play one control point over and over and over again. This is my favorite control point right here. It's called the Mast. I can beat it in 5 minutes on the hardest difficulty, sometimes less, and I get XP. It tells me my reward for doing it. In Gotham Knights, these control points are literally your strongholds, where you have the skulls on there. I don't have anyone in this mission right now because it's not stationary in quote. What it does is it resets every time I reset the map. But activities like Criminal Deal and Witness Under Attack, they spawn with randomized difficulty settings as well. So it's kind of a similar system, but it's a lighter version to be able to give you accessibility. So if you don't want to do a hard mission of some kind, you can just move to another mission and so on and so forth. And this map is not really that big for you to have that dynamic aspect. In the Division 2, we have two maps. Shoot, we got the map of freaking Washington, D.C. This is a one-to-one representation, by the way. And this is New York. You can literally open the New York map and you get like the south side by financial district and all that stuff. And you can fast travel there. You can do the exact same thing over and over again. This is a fundamental game design mechanic that does the loop within the game story and progression. When it comes to skill trees or when it comes to getting things by doing activities, Gotham Knights is not grindy. The Division is grindy. Destiny is grindy. Look at one skill tree. This is your specialization weapon skill tree. You have to have 165 points to unlock this skill tree. And this is just basically based on your weapon and stats that you're, by and large, affecting you and your group, just like Gotham Knights did with its own, ability tree, but in a much simpler, less grindy fashion, if you were to ask me. It's nothing crazy. And in the Division 2, this is just one set of trees. And for you to want to use them, you got to unlock all of them, actually by just playing missions that give you points. And sometimes you do the same ones that are shorter just to be able to get those points. Then you have another skill tree over here, which you then use to level up your skills. And these are extremely grindy, which is no surprise why I have on this account 953 hours of playtime. On my PlayStation account, I have almost 200 hours, and on my second PC account, I have over 200 hours. If Gotham Knights was grindy, you would have your 3, 5, 600 hour players by now. You don't have those players. Why? Because they've already done everything within their first 100 plus hours. They were able to knock out almost everything in the game, including New Game Plus. So it's actually a fraction, like 10% pretty much of the grind that they put in here, because they did this because it's a new concept for the superhero genre. I wish they had gone all in. I think that's probably what they should have done. They should have gone the whole way. I made this conclusion in my last video because I thought, man, why did they just stub themselves short? Another thing too that I think a lot of people are probably not, engaged in a sense that's throwing a lot of people off is what I think is the gear game. You see, the gear game is something that a lot of folk did not dial into. The gear game in Gotham Knights is reminiscent of what an RPG can look like, and not what it should look like, but what it can look like. You can gear up for different kinds of damage parameters to deal with different kinds of enemies, and you can start forming playstyles by just, kind of, in a sense, complementing your gear with 3 inventory items that you can have on you at any given time. But these inventory items have a separate means of affecting your abilities as well, like your momentum abilities, as well as some of your skills. So this is where there's the complexity where you're gelling your ability system with your gear complexities to be able to give you some really cool stuff. Tom Clancy's The Division does the exact same thing. You have a gear game in this particular game. If you open your inventory, instead, it's dependent on not only just 3 items and your abilities. This is dependent on 6 major items, 3 weapons, which all have specific skills. If you look on the right side here, you can see how these things affect my entire gameplay. Every single item is purposefully hand selected to be able to give me the best possible and best combination that I can get in dealing damage to my enemies. These other skills as well that are here, these are just my equipment, as well as these specialization skills, also complement the way my build works. I literally have to look at these stats and ensure that I'm synergized across the board. Now, even these items that I just showed you are also somewhat randomized depending on what attributes they roll on them. And then I have a customization table and an optimization table where I can grind for resources to come in here and fine tune them to have more of the stats on them and increase their power and even change some of their attributes. Folks, anybody that tells me that Gotham Knights is grindy, I literally have got to laugh and say, there is no way that you can tell me that Gotham Knights is grindy, because I can literally come here and I can also craft blueprints which all vary. Oh my gosh, you've not seen complication, you've not seen grind if you think that's the case. In Gotham Knights, if I want to craft a blueprint, I just go to my crafting and I just say, oh, I have this blueprint, so if I have enough materials, I can just craft this and I'm going to get the stats that I've been shown. In the Division, that's not the case. If I open this particular menu and I say I want to craft, say, this mask, well, look at all the attributes. It says random bonus, random bonus, random bonus. So I have some, steadfast bonuses that come with the item, but then I have random attribute bonuses that when I craft it, let me go ahead and craft one for you guys so that you guys don't yell at me. How do I even craft? I forgot. You don't have enough required currency. Look, I have to go grind currency to come back, and I also have to grind materials. Folks, you don't like Gotham Knights because the system is new to you. I can understand that. I respect that, in fact, because it helps you understand and know that this is probably not going to be a game or genre for you. And that doesn't mean that there are not players out there that do like them. They are players. In fact, there are people that are begging that the developers will add more DLC, add more content, add more items that they can continue to play this loop for. And that's one thing about these kinds of games. They are, in a sense, value games. And I think the developers sold themselves short, not just going gung-ho and doing all kinds of crazy bogus crap, because it had really made the game super cool. I mean, if you think about it, there's so much that you can do in this game. And then as for clunky combat, I'm like, which game are you playing? Because this game has, to me, one of the more responsive combat systems that you can put in place. But you got to type into the, timed attack systems to be able to basically enjoy it. I mean, this is just on the fly. I mean, I don't know if you can actually compare, even this combat with the Arkham combat. Yes, they're different. But here's what I think. A lot of folk are dialed into this style of video games. There's nothing wrong with it. Action adventure is wonderful. Arkham is one of my favorites. But once you've completed Arkham and you 240 your file, you have to actually go to your AR challenges to be able to find a challenge to do, which is fine. It's a good game design, but it removes the overall end game content and separates it from the game in a way that kind of makes it where you're thinking, okay, I completed the game, because if I log into even my New Game Plus, I can't do any more New Game story. It's a story. That's all it is. So they've separated their story from a lot of their grind mechanics where you go in and do achievements and get high scores and all, and they reward you for that, if you get what I mean. Because right now, if you even go back and you look at this, the world right now, when you finish the game goes into a save state, a change state, which is basically a way where the entire world of the game changes. And, you're not able to do anything that you've done before. Everything is one and done in the story. Gotham Knights is the same, but in a sense, it gives you that continuous crime going on. Whereas here in Arkham, it just continues to leave the bad guys on the streets, and that's all it is. They have their cars. You can chase them down. You can come out and fight them, but there isn't really much else to do. You can't go back and play, say a specific side mission or something, and that's a design choice that the developers chose to make. There's nothing wrong with that. I think everybody is just so hung up that Gotham Knights was not an action adventure game, hence it's a bad game. What kind of categorization is that? Because if you wanted to do that, we could play the exact same trick with, say, Marvel's Midnight Suns and say because it was not a whatever game, it's hence a bad game because it's a turn-based card superhero game. That's not how we do things. And I'm sure a lot of our audience members know this. And even those who have the same complaint know this, but they must be willing to say, it's a system I just don't like in superhero games. And I think we can respect that position however it is. Because yes, just because I like something doesn't mean everybody else should like it. But I think we all need to be fair when we're categorizing things that we don't like as things we don't like, not as things that are fundamentally bad. Thanks for watching the video. Peace out.